This is a rather interesting topic which I want to talk a few words upon. This is essentially about the cultural contextualization of strategies in organizations. Oftentimes a question is asked, how come some companies or organizations are very strategic and able to have great operational excellence and innovation, and some other companies are not able to emulate the same? So after around 27 years of corporate experience across companies, organizations, transnational and indigenous companies, large and small, I have developed some hypotheses which I wanted to share with you. So the first hypothesis is that the output of many of our partners in large organization is not just about the capability of the partners, but it actually depends on the capability of the client. So if you are a smarter client, you will get better quality output, often from the same set of vendors, suppliers and partners. So that's one point which I want to make, and we will have multiple examples to talk about that. The second one is, how actually do you as a founder or the CEO or the COO or the MD or the CXO really drive innovation in organization? What are some of the cultural context? What are some of the ways in which you can ensure that the organizational climate is created for innovation? So here again, one of my hypotheses is that there is a certain culture of innovation which is either built in organizations, startups, their founders, or the place where they operate from. So it's very important to get this culture of innovation, and then only innovation can happen. So that is again for me very important. It is not just about certain metrics and quality of a few people. It is about the organization. That's what innovation is happening. And I can say from my example experience across organizations, there is a certain culture in which each organization operates. Certain organizations are highly centralized, some are highly decentralized, some are not clear on which direction they are going. Some organizations tend to have a very strong culture of their own. So in some of the larger companies, for example, I have operated in, let's say a Procter & Gamble or a Reliance Industries in India, seem to have a very strong culture of its own. And the culture doesn't seem to change even if the CEO is changing. Not too much. Obviously there are changes. Every MD and CEO brings in a certain amount of change. So these are companies with very strong cultures. And of course startups, usually the culture is dependent on the culture which is set by the founders and the owners. So that's how startups work. So when I was in a company called housing.com, the culture was really set by the founders. And there are a certain set of organizations which are in between. I also have the advantage of having worked very closely with some of the so-called, what we call government organizations, not really government, but which are part government, like an IIT. So I had the privilege of working very closely with IIT Bombay in their innovation park as the first CEO of IIT Bombay Innovation Park. And again, IIT has a certain culture of its own. Sometimes decision making is slow, but it's very steady and very clear on what it wants to do. So again, if you say the IIT culture may not necessarily match with that of a, let's say, a housing.com culture. So there's a big role for the CXOs to really understand the organizational culture and drive strategies which are in line with organizational culture or change the organizational culture. And oftentimes I think different companies come out with different strategies based on the culture they have, and there is a direct correlation. At PNG, one of the things which I can tell you is, as a culture, it was extremely risk-taking and forward-looking. Risk-taking within a certain framework and goalpost. So that's what PNG was. And so we actually launched brand with what is called a planned loss but a long-term future in terms of profitability. So this is in line perfectly with P&G culture. On the other hand, when I worked with a company called Reckitt Coleman, that was slightly different. So there the EBITDA focus and the annual profit focus was higher. So therefore many of the strategies which we did was more focused on annual planning rather than the long-term building of the brand. So these are very interesting thing, and I just wanted to give a precursor of how organizational culture and ethos really determine the strategies of brands and companies. So this is just a precursor. If you want to know more, write into me and I will be doing more on this subject. Thank you.